Hi, my name's Steve Preston. I work at RSA, the security division of EMC. And during this whiteboard session, I'm going to talk to you about a strategy called information risk management. And as I present this, I want you to think of three key concepts. And very simply put, think of information-centric or information centricity, risk-based, and repeatable. Okay? So why is this strategy important? Well, IT security is still looking for more effective ways to align their investments to the business. Despite massive investments in security technology, information still isn't secure no matter where it resides. Information security investments aren't always aligned to the business, and still we're spending too much on compliance. It's awfully difficult to keep up with this never-ending flow of regulatory requirements. So there has to be a better way. And CISOs are really finding that a discussion based on risk has been a very empowering one for them to have with the line of business. It really helps them potentially align security investments to what's driving the business. So they're looking for a strategy to help actually operationalize that, and that's what information risk management is. So let's unpack that a little bit and try and understand what this is all about. Any CEO will have their initiatives for 2008, and the lines of business will start to align projects based on those initiatives for what's going on this year and next, let's say. And if you look at IT, they probably have projects aligned to those things as well, and they basically fall into 5 buckets, right? They're trying to generate more revenue. They're trying to drive down their costs. You know, one of the best ways to do both of those things at the same time, keep your customers happy, right? Build customer trust and confidence. They need to keep their business running, you know, despite fires and floods and what have you. And they need to do this and also comply to regulatory requirements. If you start to look at the projects that align to these things, the heart and soul of those projects are information. Information flows out of every one of these projects. Some of that information is public information, but some of that information is highly sensitive data or information that could actually represent risk to the business if something bad were to happen. Now, this information flows over an IT infrastructure that's very distributed and very complex and actually has its own silos if you think about it. The information can be found on laptops or endpoints. I'm just going to put EP there. Flows over networks, both, you know, inside the organization and extended in the World Wide Web. It's in enterprise applications like CRM applications and so forth. There are files and emails, and those are all stored and backed up. So there are multiple copies of that information everywhere. Okay. Now, sometimes bad things happen inside of this, you know, distributed IT environment. We call those incidents. Sometimes laptops get stolen. Sometimes data gets lost. Sometimes insiders sell information to the black market. So when these incidents collide with sensitive information, that produces risk for the business. And so what do? Well, the first tenet, the first important thing to think about in the strategy is you have to discover that information. You have to know where that information is all over this distributed network. So I'm going to put discovery down here. It's key. Discovering assets. So it's discovering the information, but also discovering all the applications that touch that information. Second is, what's your policy for protecting that information? Third is controls. As you know, controls basically enforce policy. Do your controls enforce policy against that information? And then fourth, can you prove it? So I'm going to say monitoring, monitor, and audit. Can you prove that these controls are enforcing your policy? And so those are the 4, let's say, phases of this strategy, the things you have to accomplish when you're looking at sensitive information and protecting it. So what do we do? What do we bring to the table, and how can we help? Well, first, we can help you discover that information. Through our professional services organization, we can do risk assessments, we can do information classification and discovery, and we also have some really powerful tools that can discover content within files, within email, and so forth, and that can protect from data leakage. We can review your security policy. If you have one in place, that's fine. If you need it to be reviewed, we can help you do that or develop a new policy, and we can do that against some standard frameworks. And the reason we think that's important is building a policy based on standard frameworks actually creates repeatability. The controls you put in place can actually be reused for one regulation after the next. That actually drives down your cost of compliance. Third, I'm going to jump down to controls. There are lots of controls, and we don't offer all of them, and no one does. We focus on the information first, right? We protect that data no matter where it resides. We can protect it in a file server, in applications, and in storage, and we do that with encryption and key management and data loss prevention, right? So we can protect that information no matter where it resides. We protect access to that information. That's one of the cores to protecting access to the information is what we call the credential. The credential actually gives you permission to do things with applications and with data. We manage those credentials and we protect those credentials so that someone else can't steal them and use them for fraud, right? For the purposes of committing fraud. We can also monitor, we watch the transactions that happen, and if anything happens outside a policy that's unusual, that might be an indication of fraud, we'll flag that and help you manage that. So those are essentially the controls we put in place. And then let's jump up to monitor and audit. Think of all the logs, all the information that all of these devices and all of these things inside your IT infrastructure create, networks, endpoints, apps, and so forth. It's a massive, massive amount of data. We have a very efficient way of collecting all of those logs, which is really the foundation of a very powerful application that'll help you monitor your security environment, report on that security environment, and prove that you're complying to policy. So, in a nutshell, discovery and classification services and products, policy review services, controls, protecting the data and access to the data, and a very comprehensive way of monitoring this environment and also proving compliance and reporting. Okay? So that's what we have to offer. So let me just really summarize quick why these three things are important, back to these three core tenets of information risk management. Why is information centricity important? Well, information centricity is important because it gives you that holistic view of the potential security incidents across that whole distributed infrastructure, right? So following the data will show you where the potential for risk is from end to end, if you will. That gives you comprehensive coverage and the confidence of knowing that that information is secure no matter where it resides. Risk-based helps you prioritize when and where to invest in security and security technologies to protect that information based on the businesses and IT's common understanding of risk and tolerance for risk against that project. That's an important concept. That can not only help you prioritize, but can help you drive down costs so you don't overscope your security investments. Repeatability comes from common frameworks. So once you've done steps 1 and 2, building controls based on repeatable frameworks helps you also drive down complexity and cost of compliance because you can reuse controls from one regulation to the next. So those are 3 key tenets that I think you should think about. This is sort of the big picture, and here are the 4 phases of the process. So I hope you found this whiteboard helpful. If you'd like more information about information risk management, please by all means visit our website at www.rsa.com. Thank you for listening.